Yes, indeed. It is a Wednesday edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. It is Wednesday, December the 21st, 2022. As we have just, including today, 11 days left in the year before we turn the page to 2023. Coming up on today's show, we'll talk more about the Browns' upcoming battle with the Saints. I've got some stuff on refereeing in the NFL, plus a lot of talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have a big game tonight. I mean, as big as a regular season game can be. But the Cavs tonight will take on the Milwaukee Bucks, the best team in the NBA. We'll get to that, all of it, coming up in this edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Why do we, or maybe I'm in the minority here, when you folks watch this podcast or listen to this podcast, I'd like you to respond. I always tweet out, or usually tweet out that my podcast is up, and I'd love for you all to respond to this podcast and tell me if you agree with my theory on players, or you disagree, or you agree with half of this, what I'm about to get into, or I'm just curious. Does it matter if your team is likable? Do you want to like the players on the team? Do we ignore off-the-field stuff? Because there are off-the-field reasons why a player can be unlikable. There are on-the-field reasons that a player could be unlikable. There are just personal reasons, right? I mean, it's like, why do we like or not like players? Sports is passion. Sports is love. It's hate. It's, some people don't like to use the word hate. Whatever. It's a harsh word. I get it. Especially if somebody you don't know personally and has never wronged you personally. It's a little weird, but that's just who we are as sports fans. I know that when it comes to the Cleveland sports teams, I find the Guardians to be a very likable team. I find the Cavaliers to be a very likable team right now. The Browns are not as likable. That doesn't mean there aren't likable players on the team. And obviously a lot of this has to do with Deshaun Watson. A lot of this has to do with the owner. And just also the way it feels like the team treats its players, or it's just weird. It's like... The Cavs do a great job of Mike Polk brought this up. It was a great point by Mike, he loves the Cavs. He's obsessed with the Cavs. Obviously, he loves all the teams, but the Cavs are his thing and his team and his baby. And Mike brought up the point that the Cavs have done such a good job, even when they've been bad, of cultivating a fan base, of inviting kids, of giving away tickets. And I think the Guardians are in between. I think they've done okay, and the Browns in that vein have done a poor job. The Browns, it feels like the organization has an attitude of we're some accomplished, great organization when they're not. And that may be how I see it, may not be how you see it. And I may say the Cavs and Guardians are likable and the Browns are not likable. You obviously could disagree. There are some people that, believe that everything involving Deshaun Watson is totally made up. I live in a reality world that I don't know what happened, but I find it impossible to believe that 23 people coordinated to make up a story. I like to live in reality of what's likely and what's not. Is it likely that some of the stuff about Deshaun Watson is untrue? I could buy that. Is it likely that all the stuff about Deshaun Watson is not true? I can't buy that. But this is not about a Deshaun Watson conversation. It's what makes us like teams. Like, I bet I bet fans would say that the Browns are, a lot of fans would say the Browns are likable just because more fans here love football than anything else. So you're passionate about a team, you're willing to forgive or convince yourself that they're not likable because you don't want your team to be not likable. In 2016, and it depends on your perspective, right? Like, I found the Cubs to be a very likable team because I'm a fan. If you're not a Cub fan in 2016, certainly if you're an Indians fan in 2016, they were not likable, I'm sure. Specifically, and it even changed for me a little bit when the Cubs traded for Aroldis Chapman that year. I didn't feel as good about my team. I was still rooting for them to win, of course, but I didn't feel as good about it. When the Bengals had a lot of bad guys, and listen, we know what happened with Joe Mixon in his incident, but generally the Bengals have gone away from that in recent years. I think Joe Mixon is the only guy that on the Bengals that's been in trouble off the field that I can remember off the top of my head right now. Whereas 5, certainly 10 years ago, they had a bunch of guys like that, and they were not likable. I think the Bengals are a likable team now. They weren't for many, many, many years. And I was thinking about this because of the Cavaliers specifically, right? And I talked about on yesterday's podcast their win over Utah and the way that the crowd, and I talked about it on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show yesterday too. Their win Monday, I should say. I think I said yesterday, but their win Monday. The days all blur together sometimes. And there's something about, like, the Cavs, and even guys like Kevin Love, for a while I found him unlikable. I'm not saying you did. I'm saying I did. I like Kevin Love. I mentioned this on UCSS yesterday. Kevin Love's career in Cleveland has been wild because when we traded for him, we were all super excited. We were all up here about Kevin Love. And then he wasn't playing as well as we expected, and our thoughts about Kevin Love were diminishing. But then once they won the championship and obviously played a big role, even though he was never the player maybe we expected, maybe unfairly expected, because in Minnesota he was playing with nobody, and here he was playing LeBron and Kyrie. And he did, he had to put his ego aside to be a third wheel. But when he won the part of the championship, we loved everybody, right? And then Kyrie leaves, and now Kevin Love's the number 2 guy. He's not capable of being the number 2 guy, so we start to decline. And then he signs an extension, seems to have, at least from the public perspective, a bad attitude, and now he's way down. And before the 2020/21 season, is that right? The 2021/2022 season, before that year, most of us, definitely me included, wanted Kevin Love the hell out of here. Before and 15 months ago, I would have said, he's a bad guy. He's been bad since he signed the extension. The extension's a disaster. Get him out of here. Doesn't matter what you get for him. Get nothing for him. Just get him out. 15 months ago. And now Kevin Love has risen again. Now we love Kevin Love, even though he's not anywhere close to the player he was even when the Cavs were winning a title with LeBron and Kyrie. But now he seems like a good teammate. He seems to have completely done a 180 on his attitude. Obviously, it helps that the team is good, so he's enjoying himself more. He's taken on a leadership role. He's accepted coming off the bench without any kind of bad attitude about it. He knows his role now, and he seems very comfortable in that role. So we love Kevin Love again. But it's not just Kevin Love. This team, this Cavaliers bunch, is likable across the board. There's nobody on this team that you're like, well, I don't like him, but there's nobody. Jared Allen, and we don't know these guys. I've never met any of the Cavaliers players. I don't know them personally at all. It's perception, right? Maybe a couple of them are jerks. They could be, but I'd be surprised because I've heard not a single bad word about any player on this team, off the record or on. Not a bad word about a single player on the team. Now, my favorite player, well, before I get to that, if you missed it on UCSS yesterday, Mikey McNuggets, has some buddies that work in the NBA. One of them works for the Cavs and works for the Pacers. And when Indiana was in town, apparently, I don't know if his friend was out or he was out with his friend. I can't remember now. But like most of the Cavs team was in a restaurant or a bar. I'm not sure what it was because we didn't say it publicly. But and they were hanging out together, and they were not partying with women, which is fine if they want to. But I'm just saying they weren't. It was just a guy's night out. And it's like they're at home when they could all be going back to their houses, and most of the team was hanging out together. And the guy who worked for the Pacers said to Mikey, God, our guys would never do this. And it shows you the camaraderie. So there's two parts of this. Not only do we like when our team is likable, or I think we do. I know I do. I'm sure most of you feel the same way, even when you're convincing yourself that one of your teams is likable when they may not be. But we want our team to be truly likable. And this Cavs team obviously is much more likable than the LeBron Cavs teams. There's no doubt. Because and that's because of the other part. The other part that we love, that I love, and I want to see if you folks, if this means something to you or you don't care. I love when my players on the team I root for seem to love each other. Again, I don't know them personally. You never know who loves who. But with the Cavs that won the championship, as great as that was, and none of us will ever forget that day, especially those of you who grew up rooting for the Cavs, lived and died, and had never seen a championship in Cleveland. And even I, who was rooting for them certainly, but as you know, somebody who had been here 5 years at that time, it was a day I will never, ever forget. It was a beautiful day, 2 days really, the day they won the championship, and then the day of the parade, which was just those pictures, those moments. I was standing on the corner. I was standing on top of the county office building on East 9th and Prospect, couldn't think of the name of the street, and just seeing the sea of humanity up and down East 9th was that image will be in my head till the day I die. But that team never felt like they liked each other. Like LeBron and Kyrie didn't get along. It felt like everybody was always picking on Kevin Love. I don't know if that was actually true, but it just felt like he was, I don't know. It was just, and maybe that's revisionist history. Maybe that's stupid. Maybe that's true. Maybe nobody cared. But I do care about these things. And this Cavs team seems to really like each other. And it shows on the court. Donovan Mitchell has come in. He's an all-star player. He's come in. He's taken over the lead role. He is saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. He is leading. He said he's been more vocal here as a leader. Jetty said, hey, he's the leader of this team. To come into a team that had, gotten to the play-in last year, had two guys who were an all-star, one guy who was a great rookie, and come in and take that leadership role, and there's no, as far as we know, again, there appears to be zero friction about that. Zero, this is my team, this is your team. None of that nonsense seems to be going on. Again, maybe I'll be proven to be wrong, but I doubt it because it doesn't seem like any of that stuff is happening. And that makes you feel, when you see players loving each other in a team, it makes you feel warm and cozy inside. It's like, I love that guy. I'm glad I love that guy and I love that guy. And those guys love each other. It's beautiful. That's what we want. And it feels like this Cavalier team does. And I think, obviously from a talent perspective, they're loaded, right? They're just loaded top to bottom. Donovan Mitchell is their best player, followed by Darius Garland, followed probably by Jarrett Allen and then Mobley, although ultimately Mobley's a more talented player. But to me, while Donovan Mitchell has become the leader, and he's a vocal guy, and Kevin Love leads, and Jarrett Allen may not be that type of guy, Jarrett Allen is my favorite player on the Cavs because I love guys who exceed their skill set with an ultimate energy, an ultimate motor, and an ultimate attitude. And when I say attitude, not like a bad attitude, like an attitude that just is electric. And Jarrett Allen does everything right. He's not great at every aspect of the game, but he just plays the game the right way. He hustles. He's completely unselfish. He's just a team guy. and he does all the dirty work. And he puts up his points, and he gets his dunks, and he gets his rebounds, and he does well in the offensive glass. But he just does a lot of other things from an energy, from a hustle perspective that rub off on the team, and there's no stats for it. But I love watching Jared Allen play. I'm old school in terms of I miss the kind of back to the basket type of center. And they don't really do that, even Jared Allen. But I just love the way he takes everything to the basket. None of this, it seems like everybody shoots 3-pointers. I'm kind of bored by 3-pointers. I just love watching Jared Allen play old school toughness, old school energy. I love it. I love everything about him. And again, he is, to me, the heart of this team, the heartbeat of the team. It's a really good team. They're really fun to watch. And I'm very excited to watch this game tonight. And you got the Cavs who have won 4 in a row, and 8 of their last 11, I believe. They're 15-2 at home, which is the best record at home in the NBA. The Bucks are 8-5 on the road, which is one of the better road records in the league. They're also great at home, obviously, at 14-3. And to see these teams go at it, remember, this is the first time they're playing in Cleveland. The Cavs played 2 games in Milwaukee earlier in the season. They lost 113-98 the first game and 117-102. So not only the Cavs 0-2 against the Bucks, they've lost by 15 points at both games. Both games were 15-point losses, and the Bucks have kind of pulled away. And listen, Giannis has been a nightmare for the Cavs in his career. That's not really unusual because he's a nightmare for everybody in his career, and he will be tough to deal with. The Cavs will at least have all their stars for this game. Obviously, they won't have every player for this game, but they'll have all their star players, their 4 best players. And right now, the Cavs are right there. I mean, they have one of the best records in the NBA. And so I'm just excited to watch this game. Bucks have won 2 in a row after they just got destroyed by the Grizzlies. I can't remember when that game was. When was this game? I don't know. Anyway, they got destroyed by the Grizzlies like a week ago. 142-101. They were outscored 70-41 in the first half. That's weird. And it wasn't like Giannis played. Middleton. Now, those guys didn't. I don't think they played much in the second half because the game was over at halftime. But Giannis had 19 points in 26 minutes, but the rest of the starting lineup in 80 minutes had like 20 points. But anyway, a little too far afield. I can't wait to watch this game because the Bucks are the best team in the NBA. And the Cavs are trying to say we belong. They've done it against the Celtics. They haven't been able to do it against the Bucks. I'll look forward to watching that. Folks, BetOnline, let me talk to you about BetOnline here. Your .net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those on BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm going to switch it up. We go from the Cavaliers and likable teams to a team that's, in my opinion, less likable, and that's the Browns. Doesn't mean you don't root for them, but they're less likable. Now, they have players that I like, a lot of players that I like. But they have enough unlikable guys, and, their owner, to me, is hard to take. And so that factors into the likability factor being low. That being said, I continue to bang the drum for not giving up on the playoff hopes, as unlikely as it is. Yesterday, we were in the middle of a Browns discussion on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and G asked a question Would you if the Browns win out and a genie could grant you a wish that the Browns win out and make the playoffs, or win out, don't make the playoffs, but get their 2023 first round pick back? What would you take? And to me, it's a no-brainer. If I could go to the playoffs, why would I ever choose a draft pick over the playoffs? My man Axel tweeted at me about this and said, picking a first-rounder over making the playoffs is the ultimate defeatist attitude. And I think that's a loser mentality. The upside of a first-round pick that you get at 20 if you draft a defensive lineman or whatever, yeah, maybe he becomes the next great defensive lineman. Okay, maybe if he's Aaron Donald, he can make a difference. I don't know what the odds of that are, but the upside of the playoffs is, yeah, even though the Browns don't look like a championship contender, you never know when the playoffs start. As long as you have a championship-level quarterback, there's always a chance. They do. Now, he's not playing that way. I'd like to see him play that way in the last 3 games. If he does, then anything's possible in the playoffs. I just would always want to go to the playoffs. I'm not worried about one draft pick. To me, I'm taking the playoffs every time. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting question. But Browns are a 3-point favorite for the home finale. The weather is supposed to be absolutely atrocious. Actually, the line went down to 2.5, so there must be some money here on the Saints. But the over-under on this game is, according to my man Cleve TA, is one of the lowest he's ever seen, maybe the lowest. The over-under is 32. That is crazy. I would stay away from that. But 32, I mean, usually like the lowest you really see is 36, 37. You don't really see over-unders under 30. In fact, the second lowest over-under this week is the Broncos-Rams game on Sunday, and that's 36.5. Like, you rarely see an over-under under 5 touchdowns, but that's what you got. Some of the big over-unders this week, you got Seahawks-Chiefs is 48.5. Giants-Vikings is 48. Bengals-Patriots 41.5. Lions-Panthers 44. Eagles-Cowboys 46, although Jalen Hurts may not play. Biggest one, Packers-Dolphins 49.5. And Chargers-Colts is 46.5. So most of them are high 30s, or certainly even into the 40s, or even high 40s. 32 is just crazy. That's just wild. But anyway, I do feel good. I'm leaning towards picking the Browns again this week. Although there are some injuries, and we'll see as the week goes along how big a deal it is. But the Browns did have some injuries that were reported out of camp yesterday. Out of practice yesterday, including Nick Chubb, who's dealing with a foot issue, and he did not practice. Ethan Pocic was expected to practice. He was designated to return from the injured reserve, which means he could play this week. He's going to practice. They'll see how he's doing. And if he comes out okay, then he could play this week and be the starting center. We hope that can be the case, because obviously the offensive line was a lot better with him at center. So that's what we're expecting. Also yesterday, Jadeveon Clowney didn't the Chubb injury was a foot injury. I can't remember if I said that. Clowney didn't play due to concussion. Myles Garrett has some sort of illness. John Johnson with a thigh injury. So obviously those are all critical guys. So we'll see what happens and if they're able to go. In terms of the weather, this could be a big factor in this game. You know, it's not supposed to snow. I mean, it's supposed to snow. Last check, I'll double check the forecast. Last time, and we'll have, I think we're going to have Betsy Kling from WKYC is going to be on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, I think. We're planning to have her on, or if the schedule works out. But at last check, the rain was supposed to be, the snow was supposed to be on Friday. So let's see. Maybe it looks like the forecast has been kind of pushed back now. Rain on Thursday, then Friday. No, there's snow on Friday. Not as bad as it was originally thought. So as of now, it says 1 to 3 inches Friday during the day, 1 to 3 inches Friday night. And the Browns play Saturday. There's supposed to be some snow and like kind of snow flurries on Saturday. The high temperature on Saturday, the high 13 degrees, 50% chance of snow, 25 to 35 mile an hour winds with wind gusts of up to 50 miles an hour. So it is going to be brutal on the field. It is going to. I'm not expecting this game to be the game that Deshaun Watson looks like a superstar for the first time, because even with his massive arm, it is going to be tough sledding with negative degree wind chills, I assume, and crazy wind right on the lake. It's going to be a rough day out there. It's going to be brutal. I am not glad I'm not going to the game. I'll be in my nice warm house. But so that's obviously that's part of the reason that the over-under on this game is so low. All right, quick break, and we'll wrap it up with some odds and ends, including some updates to the Guardians coaching staff. That's coming up on the bullpen with Adam the Bull. All right, we are back. Here we are. Guardians have made some news in terms of the coaching staff. Obviously, they've added 2 players to the roster. And they still have some things to do. We'll see. I mean, the top free agents are pretty much off the board, but hopefully the Guardians still being aggressive, maybe for another corner, another first baseman DH type that can hit lefties, maybe one more outfielder. Brian Reynolds is still out there. I think somebody will acquire him in a trade at some point from the Pirates. So that he could still be in the mix. Who knows? And, wouldn't mind seeing them add a mid-rotation starter. We've talked about this. New Guardians coaches. The new bullpen coach is Rigo Beltran. Spent the last 4 years in AAA as the pitching coach. He replaces Brian Sweeney, who had been the bullpen coach. He went to Kansas City to be the pitching coach. They have a run production coordinator. They have everything now in baseball. The run production coordinator is Jason Esposito. Spent the last 2 years as the hitting coach at AAA. He replaces Justin Toole, who is now the Mariners' director of PD. I'm not sure what that is. Director of PD. Not sure. Anyway, so that's it. We'll keep an eye and see if the Guardians do anything else. But as of now, the roster is what it is. It's better from a team that won the division last year, but there's still some work to be done. But the lineup is better. So we'll see what they do. Still obviously plenty of time. Things kind of tend, in terms of transactions, to quiet down probably if there's not from usually like, I would say the day or two before Christmas until the day or two after New Year's, there's not many transactions happening. Things kind of go, it's like the one quiet spot of the offseason. And then once we get, especially the second week of January through the first week of February, you'll see most of the rest of the free agents and trades happen in that 4-week stretch. Because spring training will be here in less than 2 months. Pitchers and catchers in less than 2 months. All right, thanks for joining me on this Wednesday edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Make sure you subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube. Make sure you hit the alert bell every time I do a podcast, every time the show puts out a podcast, every time we do a post-game show, including this Saturday. It'll be G. Bush and I doing just the two of us for the Browns and Saints after the game. You'll get an alert. Consider becoming a member of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Yesterday we did 15 minutes of bonus content as Mikey McNuggets gets ready to do stand-up as his punishment for finishing dead last in the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show Fantasy League. For $4.99 a month, you get bonus content nearly every day we do a show, and plus emojis that you have access to, and badges, and a community chat room, all kinds of cool things for just $4.99 a month. Make sure you check me out on Twitter at Adam the Bull, on Cameo. In fact, I just got hired to do We Miss You video on Cameo today, so I'll be doing that at some point today. And also check out my website, of course, adamthebull.com. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya. Sweetie? What happened?